All right, so samples and surveys. First of all, a couple of vocabulary things. Population is all the people in that group that you're kind of studying or looking at, that you're representing. A sample is just part of that group, all right, part of the population. Bias is when a part of the population is overrepresented or underrepresented. So bias means when you do something that has bias, it doesn't really represent um, everyone in that population fairly, all right? Um, so if we want to know something about our high school students, well, if you only ask the freshmen, then the freshmen are overrepresented, and then your sophomores, juniors, and seniors are underrepresented. Right now, so there's different ways to choose a sample, to choose a group of people, okay, of your population. One is the convenience sample, okay? The convenience sample is just whoever, is convenient, who happens to be around, maybe people you eat lunch with or something, all right? Or maybe just some kids you're in class with, or maybe just your friends. All right, the self-selected sample would be where you ask for volunteers, and then whoever wants to come out and say what they've got to say, then you take them. All right, systemic sample is where you order the population. So if you want to order them alphabetically or assign them a number, however you want to order them, and then you select people at regular intervals. All right, so if you say, I'm going to choose every 10th person, that would be systemic sample. And then random sample is everything is completely random. So maybe we have the computer generate a bunch of random numbers and we go through and we let that help us choose. Okay, or you put everybody's name in a big bucket and you start drawing names. It's completely random. All right, now as far as bias goes with these, I'll try that again. And you're going to talk about bias. Okay, so if we're going from here to here, all right, just going to give you a little idea on where these different things kind of lie as far as bias. So convenient sample, you could just be picking your friends. So that's definitely going to have a lot of bias with it. You're just picking people that probably, usually how it works out, they usually have the same interests as you, if it's convenient. And then self-selected, you're selecting volunteers, but still, you're opening that up, and it's probably going to be people that are comfortable talking to you. Systemic, all right, so now we're doing the regular intervals. It's not completely random, but there's less bias here. And usually when you have a random sample down here at the bottom, there tends to be no bias with that because it's random, all right? So usually the top one is definitely biased. This has some bias generally. It can. And then as you go down this way, you get to where there's no bias. All right. So number one, identify the sampling method. So we're looking at these four up here. State whether the sampling method has any bias. So television station invites viewers to call in and name their favorite game show. All right, so you got this television station and you want people to call in. All right, so you're not asking them, they are actually volunteering. All right, so this one will be your self-selected. That's self-selected. And as far as bias goes, yes, it's going to have some bias because chances are if people are watching that television station, there's a good chance that their favorite game show is going to be on that station. Okay? So that would, yes, there's bias there. And then we have different studies, experiment, surveys. Okay, we're talking about those up here now. So when you're talking about those, observational study is when you're actually observing, or measuring what's happening in your study. And whatever you're doing to observe or to measure, you're not affecting the things that are in your study. Okay, you're not bothering them, you're not altering, not causing them to be altered. A controlled experiment is when you have two groups, all right? You treat one group, okay? You're actually doing the experiment on the one group, and then the other group, you're not doing anything different, but they think that they are, all right? The untreated is called the controlled group. So both groups think maybe it's a certain time of medication, right? So you give something to both groups, but one of them, you're giving them a placebo. They think it's the medicine, but really it's not. And then you you look into your results from there. All right. A survey, you pick a group of people from your population, you pick a sample, whichever method you want to, and then you ask them the questions. All right. So you're asking every member of the sample a set of questions. It's not every member of the population, just the sample that you had chosen. All right, so identify the study method. So we're going to look at these three things right here. And then should these sample statistics be used to make a general conclusion about the population? So number 5, a researcher places 40 houseplants of the same type and size in each of the 2 identical soundproof rooms. Each plant receives the same amount of water and light. Classical music is played continuously in one room and no music is played in the other room. After 2 months, the researcher measures the growth of the plants. All right, so the researcher is trying to figure out, did classical music, could it have helped the plants grow or not? All right, so one group had classical music, the other group had no music. All right, so this is a controlled experiment because you've got your 2 groups. One group is being treated and the other is not. All right, so this is controlled. And, what could we do with those statistics? Would they make a general conclusion about the population? And yes, they would. All right, you may conclude that, all the plants in the classical room, they seem to be taller than the no music, or maybe they're shorter than the no music. Or you may end up saying, well, there's really no difference because we've got some plants with no music as tall as some of the classical. So you can make a conclusion from that.